Hey everybody, so SEC Chief Gary Gensler testified in front of Congress yesterday, and I want to highlight just a couple of the questions that were asked to him that I found very, very poignant and really gave those of us who are watching a real clearer understanding of what his agenda is, which basically is dismantling cryptocurrency blockchain technology in the United States.
Popular digital assets and powers the Ethereum blockchain. Back in 2018, then SEC Corporation Finance Director Bill Hinman stated that he believed Ether was not a security. Last month, CFTC Chair Benham expressed his view that Ether is a commodity. The State Attorney General of New York asserted in a court filing last month that Ether is a security. Clearly, an asset cannot be both a commodity and a security. Do you agree?
Okay, so get ready for his answers or his non-answer.
Actually, all securities are commodity under the Commodity and Exchange Act. It's that we are excluded commodities. But I would agree that a security cannot be also an excluded commodity and an included commodity. I'm sorry.
So this is the first time that Mr. McHenry asked this question.
Chair, just to talk about the Commodity Exchange Act more precisely.
Okay, so do you recognize, how would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended.
I'm asking you,
years,
sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
Without speaking to anyone.
I know you've repeatedly said you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to a second one, the second largest market cap here.
And speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. If there's a group of entrepreneurs in the
I'm asking
middle,
about one.
The public is anticipating a profit based on the...
I'm asking you a specific question, Chair Gensler. I said this in private. This should be no shock to you. I'm asking this question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals...
I'm asking you about the facts and the law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And
so what I love about this was the very first question. This was right after Mr. McHenry's opening statements, and he just goes right in for the kill, and I really love this because I was expecting this question to come around at some point. I wasn't expecting it to be the first question asked. And you can see Mr. Gensler just totally like, oh man, if he really believed that it was a security. Now this is strange because if you believe something is a security, and that's what you're saying that pretty much everything except Bitcoin are securities, right? So why not come out and say, yes, I believe it's a security, and we are taking action, we're taking appropriate action to look into that more or whatever. But he just refuses to ask or to answer this question.
so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because I'm also...
But you have prejudged on this. You've taken 50 enforcement actions. We're finding out as we go, as you file suit, as people get Wells notices on what is a security in your view. In your agency's view. I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset. What is your view?
And my view is if there's a group of individuals in the middle that the public is anticipating...
All right, so let me just ask a second.
So just to kind of clarify, if you're not sure, there's different tests that determine if something is a security. One of which is there a central point where you are expecting a profit? Is there one person that, like for the most part, like a stock, if I'm investing in a stock, then I can identify the head of that company and I'm investing in that stock with expectation, it's called the Howey test, with expectation of profit. So what Gary Gensler is saying is that the majority of cryptos, again with Bitcoin it can't because there is no central point, there is no one person that is identifiable with Bitcoin. So it's considered a commodity. And so what Gary Gensler has been saying with that the majority of cryptos are securities. And with Ether, what has been going on with Ethereum, and I think he was referring to, Mr. McHenry was referring to Coinbase, they received a Wells notice. So let's go ahead and continue hearing what Mr. McHenry has to say even more.
On those
Question then.
efforts.
Do you think it serves the market for an object to be viewed by the commodities regulator as a commodity and the securities regulator to be viewed as a security? Do you think that provides safety and soundness for the product? Do you think it provides consumer protection? Do you think it serves the value of innovation? I think no should be a very simple answer for you here.
I think
That uncertainty is bad, is it not?
And I think that Congress has said that there's one agency, the Securities and Exchange Commission, under this committee.
And you won't answer my question, and you're the head of that agency. So give me a break. Come on.
I'm answering it in the generic because you would not want me to speak about any one set of facts and circumstance.
Okay, so, but you've already spoken. Have you said anything about Bitcoin?
My predecessors and the agency itself has spoken to them.
Okay,
Yes.
but you're not willing to do the same about Ether. Okay, so let me just step back. There's a lack of clarity here in the marketplace. Can you at least agree to that?
I think that the clarity is there. The law is clear.
All
that
right.
There's a group
So
of individuals who rely
let me
on
be
the
explicit about this. The market doesn't see it. Your regulatory actions and the CFTC's regulatory actions say that there's a great deal of uncertainty here. It is the intention of this committee to fix that uncertainty. And
Wow. So I remember watching that yesterday, and my mouth was on the floor with how fast that question was asked, and also how passionate Mr. Gensler was to not answer this question. You would think that if you are very confident, then you're going to be like, yes, ETH is a security. Believe in what you stand for. So for him to not come out and say point blank, yes, we consider Ethereum a security and this is why, is bad. Okay? It makes them look really bad. So now I want to share just one more clip with you from Mr. Emmer, and he was coming after Mr. Gensler with guns blazing.
Chair Gensler, I have a lot of questions in a limited amount of time, so if you could keep your answers to either a yes or a no, that will allow us to get through as many as possible, sir. From your perspective, is it more difficult now for the digital asset industry to access financial products and services in the United States than it was, say, 2 years ago?
Sir, I'm not running one of those businesses. If they came into compliance, I think
Reclaiming my time. The answer, sir, is yes. Do you think you and the SEC have had a role to play in that?
I think we have a role to protect the American investor and the capital markets and the
Reclaiming my time, sir. You have played an obvious...
Notice how he really has to stop and almost like, oh no, what's the right answer? What can I do to get out of this? You could feel him squirming in his chair.
During your tenure at the SEC, how many rules has the SEC finalized that actually accommodate the existing regulatory framework and are specifically to the digital asset industry so the crypto market can come into compliance?
It's their rule books that are on the books for years, so we have not finalized any new rule specifically with regard to crypto. We've proposed some things in best execution. We've also...
Sir, reclaiming my time, the answer is zero. And how many...
So another thing that I noticed is whenever Gary Gensler would start going off and expounding, because again, they only have 5 minutes. All right, so each question, each congresswoman, committee member that would ask a question, they would have like 5 minutes for their question and for their answer. So that's why he's saying, I'm going to reclaim my time. I want my time back. He's stopping Gary Gensler from just going on diatribes and wasting the time. So I really thought that was kind of an ingenious ploy on Mr. Emmer. Did I get that right, Mr. Emmer? Yes. And you could see how SEC Chief was trying to manipulate the time. But Mr. Emmer wasn't having any of it.
Enforcement actions has the SEC levied against digital asset companies during your tenure, sir?
I think it's probably 40 or 50.
The answer, sir, is about 55. My understanding is that the biggest crypto failure in history is probably FTX at $9 billion. Were you the chairman of the SEC when FTX collapsed?
Yes.
And how many times did you meet with FTX prior to their collapse?
I think my public record shows 2.
You met it with FTX at least twice. And arguably, the second biggest crypto failure in history was Terra Luna. Who was the chairman of the SEC when Terra Luna collapsed, sir?
We had brought...
You were, sir, reclaiming my time. You were. There are 5 members on the commission. Do you believe your speeches and interviews are to serve as the official position?
Okay, so I think he's going, if I remember correctly. So here was something that I found was really interesting. When Gary Gensler came out and he was doing his opening statement, he basically said, everything that I say here is basically my own opinion. And what he was kind of held his feet to the fire on that was, wait a minute, you are here to represent the SEC. So you should not be, it's inappropriate for you basically to be speaking that these are your own beliefs when you are here as the Securities and Exchange Commission chief to talk about what you're doing, but yet you're saying that these are your own opinions. So this was something that really I thought was, well, I was surprised, but I was happy to see that he didn't get away with it. So I think Mr. Emmer is going there. I know another speaker did, or another congressman. So let's just see where this goes.
Of the SEC.
I can only speak for myself when I'm speaking.
Again, sir, in a statement on the SEC website, you are quoted saying, the Kraken staking as a service enforcement action should make clear to the marketplace that staking as a service providers must register. But again, you haven't provided any rules for how that can be done. I must remind you, your public statements are not regulations. It's not responsible to expect the American people to assume your statements are a substitute for rules. Do you agree with this statement regarding the digital asset industry? The SEC needs additional congressional authorities to prevent transactions, products, and platforms from falling between the regulatory cracks.
I think that it's a largely non-compliant field. And
Sir, again, I asked you to
resources.
comply with my questions, and I'm asking you if you agree with that quote. And I'm going to tell you, I'm quoting you from an August 3rd, 2021 article.
How can a person actually do that when someone is reading you back? If you agree with your own quote and you are not even able to, yes, that I said it, I stand by it. He didn't do any of that. Unbelievable.
Article where you, and I believe you told Congressman Hill earlier that you need congressional authority to regulate stablecoins, and stablecoins happen to be a significant percentage of the crypto market. So the question is, when were you telling the truth to Mr. Hill or to me? You've got to start answering these questions in a more transparent manner, sir. Does it concern you, by the way, that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
Okay, so this is a big one because this is something that we've been saying for a long time. Because there are no, if Europe can do it, there's multiple countries that have created a framework, some regulations for crypto and how it can function. But here in the United States, we have nothing. And what's happening now is because the SEC is coming after, it's coming after companies that are reaching out to them in good faith. And because what they're getting rewarded by their good faith by going to the SEC and saying, hey, yes, this is what we're doing. Like Coinbase, for example. They went to Coinbase in good faith dozens of times asking them how can they be compliant, to no answers, no questions. What does he expect to happen? Innovation is going to go elsewhere, offshore, to countries that are more crypto friendly. And we're seeing it now, like with Hong Kong too, right? They are trying, these companies are like Dubai, these places are going to be very welcoming to crypto companies that just find it impossible to function and operate here in the United States.
Trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws, then they shouldn't be offering their products.
Reclaiming my time. Madam Chair, I would like to enter into the record this Wall Street Journal article from April 14th, 2023, detailing China's ploy to open its banking system to crypto firms in an effort to seize an opportunity created by our hostile regulatory environment, which, Mr. Chair, you're a big part of.
Without
Look,
objection.
Chair Gensler, FTX was domiciled abroad and so is Binance, yet American consumers still had access to both. You can't really think that pushing this industry abroad is going to protect American consumers when it hasn't several times in the past on your watch. You say the crypto market is rife with non-compliance. However, existing SEC rules make no sense for blockchain-based companies, and following them would actually kill these businesses. Your regulatory style lacks flexibility and nuance, and as a result, you've been an incompetent cop on the beat.
Wow. Talk about slapping them upside the chops. That's a striking term. Whoa. Very visual.
Nothing to protect everyday Americans and pushing American firms into the hands of the CCP. Your intention to work against SEC mission and put American investors in harm's way has been made very apparent, sir. It's been a year and a half since you've appeared before this committee. You need to answer to Congress about the issues that you've had with the SEC staff union, the work environment you've cultivated at the SEC that's led to hemorrhaging of senior staff, the intellectual inconsistency of your regulatory treatment towards Bitcoin spot ETFs, and your politicization of capital formation opportunities through your treatment of certain SPACs. And that's just to name a few.
I just wanted to focus on a few bits. There was a lot more stuff going on, but I really wanted to just hit a couple of the highlights for you. Now, again, do I think fair and reasonable regulations are appropriate? I do. But when you are basically, you're regulating by enforcement, that you are making it, and you're making it impossible for crypto companies, businesses to operate legally in the United States because they don't know whether they're stepping or fetching. Do we do this? Is we good enough for that? There's no clear-cut guidelines for crypto companies to basically play by the rules. It's hard to play a game when you don't know what the rules are. That's part of the Operation Choke Point 2.0 methodology, is to cut off crypto companies' ability to function, right? To have access to resources. I hope that you're having a great day, and leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And remember, here at the Crypto Dojo, crypto never sleeps.